Happy Sabbath, church. Happy day. My name is Casmuel. If you do not know me from this church, you probably know me from social media, from Instagram or TikTok, and I will be giving the health nugget today. It's going to be a really short conversation type thing on mental wellness. If you saw it from your bulletins, I chose the hashtag Kitawaramba because I heard this phrase first, and I believe that most of us first heard it from a man who was coming from court, and the statement he said was, "Mnachopigana nacho hamkijui na kitawaramba." And I thought about it, and I realized that a lot of the times we do not know about the possibilities that having endured mental unwellness from the past could do to us in our current lives. I'd just like to make a few statements. There was a research that was done, and I hate quoting research in this kind of manner because I'm one of the people who feels sort of turned off when a young girl comes here and tells me a random story from, I don't know, maybe let's say Russia or some deep parts of Poland in the mission statement, as if we do not have authentic Kenyan stories that could build our faith. Anyways, a study was done that showed that if you interacted with your Bible once a week, let's say if you just came to church on Sabbath and you heard the sermon and it was a beautiful Sabbath for you, there was no effect in your life. If you interacted with the Bible twice a week, there was still no effect in your life. If you did it 3 times a week, you would still not notice anything. But if you interacted with your Bible 4 times a week, we'd start to realize that there was a slight change, and that change was gradual and it was positive to the people who interact with the Bible every single day of the week. And I know now you're asking yourself, why does my mother read the Bible every single day and she still behaves the way she does? Or your father, or whatever it is. And this is where I would like to address the way we Christians approach the mental health issue, where we tell people that if you were a better Christian, if you were a better believer, if you read your Bible a bit more often, you would not be insert your mental condition. You would not be anxious, you would not be depressed, or you would not be going through any form of mental hardship. I speak as a person who understands this topic at a very personal level, and I know you were wondering when this was going to come out, but I went to the Alliance High School, please, and it was a beautiful place to be. But as a young boy, it was hard for me because I was one of those really creative people, and I wanted to explore the world, and I went on about 5 suspensions. And I think the 6th one was an indefinite suspension. How many of you have ever been just out of school for suspensions? Suspensions are not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, it's really nice that all of you are healthy, you are well-adjusted teenagers, and that did not happen to you. But it happened to me. And thinking about it, if I had people who would have given me pointers in life, I think it would have turned out to be better. And this, first of all, is to give you hope. If you have a teenager who's disturbing you at home, they've probably not gone for 6 suspensions, and I am in church, give them time. They're going to come back. This is for any parent. And teenagers who are watching or listening to this, I know you're used to people just talking to parents and telling them, parents, if your teenager is at home and they're disturbing you, this is what you should do. Teenagers and young people, it is very possible that you're living with parents who are, 1, emotionally immature, and I know this is hard for you to hear, and they are not well socially adjusted. And the thing about children is children have no way of identifying a lack of emotional intimacy in the relationship with the parent. It is not a concept that children have, and it is unlikely that they will understand that their parents are emotionally immature. All they get is a gut feeling of emptiness, which is how a child experiences loneliness. So if you're with healthy parents, when you start to feel that feeling of emptiness, if you're with healthy parents, you go to them and you get affection. But if you're with an unhealthy parent, you might survive your childhood until you get to this point where you start falling in love, or you start socially experiencing other people, and suddenly you have shame to express your need for validation, to express your need for love and just basic affection. And this is why I was saying, a lot of the times, we think that, oh, we're just unique human beings who are going through specific things, while we refuse to look at what went on in our childhood. This is why it's very important for us as Christians to acknowledge the fact that, yes, it is very possible for you to be a Christian and for you to be depressed. It is possible for you to be a Christian and for you to be anxious. It is possible for you to be a Christian and be battling feelings of mental unwellness. Once we acknowledge that, then we move away from this cliche method of saying that, you see, when we come to church, I feel like the quote-unquote biblical therapy suggests that if you come with a burden, let's say somebody was sexually assaulted when they were a child and they've come out when they're much older, or they went through a traumatic experience, generally in the church you will find that they are told that now we have to go through a forgiveness journey. I want you to learn how to forgive, and I want us to walk in the biblical way. And I doubt that is healthy behavior. That is not healthy behavior. As opposed to counseling, where if a person goes for counseling, they're told, we will move at your own pace. We will not move any faster than we need to move for you to heal. Christians, if you're here, if you're young, you're an old person, I would advise you that if you're going through a traumatic experience, and if you're in a period of mental unwellness, please seek professional help. This is also fully cognizant of the fact that we are living in a very complicated world where, if you look about, the devil is consistently and constantly trying to attack several institutions, and I'll just try to focus on the family and the institution of marriage, and of course the next one is the Sabbath, which we are always told about, so I will focus on the one for the family. Generally, if you switch on your television nowadays, the image of the father that's depicted is he is a wasteful man, he's always a drunkard, he's inefficient, he does not know anything to do. And as young men, all you're being told is what you need to do is you cannot think for yourself, you're not allowed to have ideas or opinions, and all you have to do is just find a way of existing silently. So I feel like this affects men and women differently, where if a man needs therapy, a lot of the times when we find ourselves in these mentally absolutely uncomfortable situations, what we're feeling is a lack of effectiveness, a lack of efficiency. So when a man comes to you, and I feel like I've always been uncomfortable with a question where somebody asks me, how does that make you feel? Because my feelings are, of course, feedback, and they help me to understand this is what the thing could be about. But most of the times when men are down, it's usually because they feel powerless, they have no control over this particular situation, or they're falling behind in a highly competitive world. It's okay for you to be in a competitive world. The world is not fair. It's not about to be. And I feel like once we acknowledge these things, we're in a better position to realize that these are some of the things that we could do towards wellness. For women, it manifests very differently, and I feel like we've got it somehow right. And that's very laudable. And even the way they communicate their feelings, the way they handle their issues, it's a thing that we could both find a way of figuring out. Because even if you look at it in the terms of communication, I would say that a feminine way, and this is not to gender communication in any way, a feminine way of communication involves feelings. So if we were to think about it in letters, it would be vowels, a, e, o, u. It's mostly or a, or like most of it goes like that. But masculine communication is more consonant. So it's highly effective. This is what I'm saying. This is what I mean. It's direct, no room for your emotions. It is not good to have only one. If you can find a blend of you healthily communicating your feelings and you not taking away from the fact of the matter, then we get better adjusted to be better people. As young people, I feel like we've lived a life, and this is an expectation that society has upon us, where we've never made a single decision for ourselves. Your parents decided what daycare you would go to. Your parents decided what primary schools you would go to, what high school you would go to, and what you would wear, what you would eat, and what you would study. Goes on to campus, and then suddenly they ask you to make the first single biggest decision that you've been trusted with is who you're going to marry. Which I think is absolutely crazy, because I have not made a single decision in my life, not my finances, but suddenly I need to know who I want to spend the rest of my life with. If you're in that phase of your life, I would say take it easy, just socialize. And if I were just to wrap this up, part of the things that stress us out are finances, our relationships with both God and man. If we sort those out and our Maslow's needs, those usually get really easy to come by. If I were to look at this and just shrink it to three main things which you would need for you to get closure or to get into a better mental state, I would say, if you were to think about it from your journey from childhood to the point where you are at right now, you need to be willing to face the darkness and despair over and over again without running away or numbing them in the 1,000 ways we conjure up. A lot of us use the Bible to numb our mental pain. We use drugs, we use other people, but instead of you running away from your problems, sit down with them. That's why people say it's okay not to be okay. Take that quite literally. 2, this one is to give you freedom from your parents. Just because your parents are always complaining, it does not mean that their goal is to get or feel better. Treat your parents with kindness and nicely, but do not bleed for them. It is not your responsibility to abandon your own path to try and push them from behind. The Apostle Paul in Colossians also says, even to the church, that parents are the ones who save up for their children and not children for their parents. Lastly, if you want to be free, it all has to be equally exposed. Your darkness and your light. If you're closed up, no matter how much pain the exposure creates or how much you try to hide it, if you do not allow yourself to be exposed, you cannot attain true freedom. So I hope that this morning you found some tools that would help you to cope with your mental health, and that you will be a mentally better person by knowing that in openness and vulnerability, you get to be better. Thank you very much, and have a blessed Sabbath.